as you can see, I don't throw away my scraps, so I've got lots of little pieces here, even some joined pieces, some excess binding pieces, and even larger pieced bits that I no longer needed for a certain quilt that I was making. Now if I need a particular fabric that I don't have and don't really want to go out and buy any or need it immediately, I can piece together some of these here to make a bigger panel so I can cut out the particular shape that I want. I could just use something like this if I want, say, some sort of shape or a background piece, and just cut it directly out of there. Or I could piece some of these pieces together. So generally I start by pressing everything, and then I will pick out some of the smaller pieces and begin with those. So here's a few smaller pieces, and I'll begin piecing them like, say, these two pieces, right sides together, and run a seam down there. So I'm back from the sewing machine. I have run my seam down there. My two pieces are right side together, although you can hardly tell with these batiks. I'm going to press that seam to lock those stitches, and then I'm going to open the seam on the back. So I'm going to press it open. I prefer open seams for making fabric, just to even out that bulk. So now I'll add another piece, and I could add this here or maybe here. So I'll put that on. If I had another triangle, I could actually, say this one, join those two pieces together first to make a better shape to add to, but it doesn't really matter. So I've joined those two triangles. I will give them a press and open up that seam. Finger pressing it first saves my fingers from getting burned. And at this stage I don't bother trimming those seams off, or these points. I'll just make sure right sides are together, and I'll add it to this piece. Now as my section starts getting bigger, I can start adding longer pieces. This piece could go on here. And sometimes as I'm sewing, I will see that I could trim the seam allowance back a little bit. I can use my rotary cutter to do this, but just for that little trim, it's just as easy to do it with the scissors. So I can keep adding. I generally don't add two fabrics the same. I might add that one over there, and I just keep building up my piece as I go. And when you get the piece big enough, or so big that your pieces don't really fit, that's when I'll put that piece aside and start a new block, and then I'll join the two blocks together. So I've added those next three pieces on, and just looking at this I'm thinking I might like to add another piece here, but it's quite crooked. So in this case what I do is just use my rotary cutter to straighten that off. I've just moved over to the cutting board and I'm going to trim off this edge. I'm not going to use a ruler, I'm just going to use my rotary cutter. So just remember to always cut away from yourself. Hold the base here just to get started, and then just run your rotary cutter along that edge to trim it off. It doesn't matter that it's not 100% straight. If I'd wanted it straight I would have used my ruler, but for this I really don't need to. So you can see that that's a straight edge, that one's a little crooked. I'll trim that after I've sewn the seam. I've continued to add pieces to my section until I've built up this whole piece to a reasonable size. Now from here I could square it off and just use it like that for a background on something, or I could cut it down into smaller pieces and use it maybe to piece a block or just as a background. When I'm making up these fabrics I try to keep within the same value. So I want a colour value, doesn't matter which colour as long as the value's about the same. So in this case it's a light value, or I could go for a medium or a dark even to make up a certain fabric group.